Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's next project to be Great Expectations-inspired show.
F-16s, please.
So, just when I think I'm taking my channel in a new direction, you know, after all, there's a whole ocean of famous idiots out there doing and saying vacuous shit. No, Harry and Meghan have to come back and reclaim their retarded biscuit. So it would seem that the latest idea that Harry and Meghan have come up with in order to fulfill their contractual obligations with Netflix and thereby receive the $100 million that we were all led to believe they already had in the bank, which they don't. Their latest idea is a rehash of the classic Charles Dickens novel, Great Expectations, or not a rehash, rather a show based on that novel. Amazing, wonderful idea. I can't wait. I've got great expectations. Now, the story of Great Expectations, the story of Pip, a 19th century working class lad who is physically abused, battered unconscious, in fact, repeatedly over many, many years by his older sister, who is supposed to be his primary caregiver as his parents are dead, and then emotionally manipulated by other women as he comes of age. But there is ultimately a story of a triumph of good over evil. No, the belief that if you are morally virtuous, if you're truthful, good things will come to you. That story might not seem like the most obvious choice for Harry and Meghan to make a Netflix show about. You know, seeing as their lives have essentially been the polar opposite of Pip's. You know what I mean? Growing up in anything ranging from Meghan's relative luxury childhood, you know, growing up the daughter of an award-winning lighting director in Hollywood, going to private schools in Hollywood, and then Harry's extreme luxury, growing up as, well, the son of King Charles III, and then growing up to realise that they don't have to be morally virtuous or honest. Quite the opposite, in fact. That they didn't have to do an honest day's work in their entire lives, that they could in fact get millions and millions of dollars from hearsay and half-truths on Netflix and Spotify. So while it doesn't seem like an obvious choice, let's see what ideas they have for their Netflix show. Let's get into this. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle weren't left disappointed for very long following their Spotify axe last week, it appears.
The fucking grifters.
The pair's multi-million-pound project for podcast archetypes came to an end after just one series.
Everything I've ever worked for!
But it now appears as though they are turning their attention back to the small screen.
Some F-16s.
They are said to be working on a Great Expectations-inspired TV show for Netflix titled Bad Manners. It is said that the production will be based on Charles Dickens' character Miss Havisham, and the prequel, oh, I love that word. I know that when I hear the word prequel, what we're going to get is quality. And it means my imagination doesn't have to do any of the legwork, right? Like with Star Wars, you know, the original Star Wars films, you're probably thinking, how did that come to be? You know, Darth Vader, was he good originally? Yes, he was. The films will tell you that. The prequels, you don't need to think anymore. It's all there for you. And if that doesn't satiate your need for backstories, they'll make a series on Disney Plus for you to watch as well. And then there are going to be subsequent sequels following the prequels. It'll all be that you don't have to think anymore, is the point. You know, if Charles Dickens were alive today, he'd be the same as George Lucas. He'd totally satiate our need for answers, right? He wouldn't leave anything up to interpretation, I don't think. God, no, that's not how things work nowadays. You have to make it a franchise. The Great Expectations franchise, episode 1, A New Hope. The prequel will recast the lonely spinster as a strong black woman who is living in a patriarchal society. It doesn't say black. Oh my God, she's going to be black. Is Meghan going to try and play the part? I don't know, that's probably too far, but she's definitely going to be black. That's what they're going to do, isn't it? That's the angle, that's how they're going to get people to watch it. There'll be loads of people hate watching it like The Little Mermaid. Yes, recasting Miss Havisham as a misunderstood, powerful, independent woman fighting against the patriarchy in the Bronx. No. It's the prequel you never knew you needed. And of course, if you've read the book, you wouldn't need it, because there is a backstory to Miss Havisham in the actual novel, if you can be asked to read it. But that's not important, I guess, because the people who are actually going to sit down and unironically watch a show produced by Harry and Meghan, a prequel to Great Expectations, turning Charles Dickens' classic literature into a Star Wars-like franchise, those people have no internal dialogue and they can't read. I do find it interesting, however, that Harry and Meghan, of all of the characters from Great Expectations, they want to make a prequel. They fixated on Miss Havisham. I don't know if I'm giving Harry and Meghan too much credit here, but they've actually chosen a character in Miss Havisham that quite well represents their worldview. Yes, she does. I'll tell you why. Miss Havisham, I'm sure you've all got an image, I'm sure you've all seen her depicted in some way in pop culture. Helena Bonham Carter in the movie, you know, wearing the wedding dress for decades. She never takes it off, she never washes, she's got one shoe on. Her wedding cake is still on the table. All the clocks in her house are set to 20 to 9. The time at which she got the notice that she had been jilted at the altar, right? Literally, she thought the world should have stopped. The clock should have stopped. The tides should have ceased. The earth should have stopped spinning on its axis because she got jilted at the altar. And who's going to pay? Every man in the world. She's obsessed. She's vindictive. She's twisted. She's manipulative. She's narcissistic. She wants to destroy men the way one man destroyed her. She grew up immensely wealthy, believing that no harm could ever come to her and everyone would like her. And she fell madly in love with a man who other more worldly people around her warned her, hey, he seems a bit shifty. He could be a con man, he could be trying to swindle you out of your inheritance, Miss Havisham. And she didn't believe any harm could come to her. And then, when it did, she went, what the hell is all this? That's not what I signed up to. The world was supposed to be perfect, just like Harry was living in palaces. And thought maybe he'd have to do some ribbon cutting when he got older. Some ribbon cutting duties or something. Just like Meghan thought she would be an actress, tell a few lies, move to some new countries, marry a prince, and nobody would ever catch up with her or notice that she's a vacuous idiot and write some nasty headlines about her. And then when it did, the whole world, I'm going to kill myself. How dare you say anything negative about me? Unconscious bias? Unconscious bias much? My mother died and she was perpetual light. Yes, Harry, yes, Meghan, bad things do happen to people. Not everyone likes you. Not everyone's got your best interests at heart. Like Miss Havisham, take your fucking wedding dress off. Nobody cares. Well, I guess I care somewhat, seeing as I spend a large part of my life researching them. And I bet you're all wondering how I do that. You all know how thorough I am in my research, and that's why I rely on groundnews.com, the world's first news comparison platform, which allows me, should I wish, to compare and contrast thousands of sources covering the same story. Ground News is the only way I can really get to see a broad spectrum of sources and opinions on a given subject, because if I do a Google search, I'm just going to get the ones that have paid the most to get to the top of the first page on Google, and nobody goes to page 2 of Google, ever. If I search for something on Twitter, I'm just going to get whatever the algorithm pushes to the top.
Ground News shows its readers who's funding the coverage of a given news item, how reliable the sources are with the factuality rating, and where the sources covering the story in question fall on the political spectrum. So to stay fully informed on breaking news, compare coverage and avoid media bias, go to ground.news/Daniel Boland and sign up for a free trial when you download the app on your phone, or subscribe for unlimited access if you find it as useful as I do, with the link in the description. Anyway, where was I? Miss Havisham, the way they want to depict her now in this prequel, you know, this Star Wars-esque prequel, as this strong woman who was beaten down by the patriarchy. No, she was a narcissist.
She's a manipulative, nasty woman who adopted a young girl, Estella, who she brings up to learn to seduce men and to break their hearts. And then Pip, the main character from Great Expectations, is the boy she chooses as her playmate to come and fall in love with her adopted daughter, all the while knowing that she has created a very apathetic, very cold young woman in her adopted daughter, in Estella, who can't love a man because she's been told all her life that men are evil and that her only purpose is to make them love her and then break their hearts. That is the person they want you to believe now is a victim of something. And the funny thing is, Miss Havisham thought she was a victim. She's not. She's a narcissist. She's a nasty, manipulative narcissist. Harry thinks he's a victim. He's a narcissist. Meghan thinks she's a victim. She's a narcissist. They were all brought up in wealth, in extreme wealth. They all believe something terrible happened to them that is almost incomparable to anything terrible that's happened to anyone else in the history of the world. It's amazing that they've chosen Miss Havisham as the subject of their Netflix show. It's absolutely incredible. Very fitting. Anyway, I feel like I've gone down the rabbit hole a little bit too much for this evening. Yeah, it's very late. It's 3 a.m. It was bloody worth it though, wasn't it? Yeah, of course it was. Like, share, subscribe, all the rest of it. I'll see you in the next one. I don't know what it'll be about, but it'll be something and it'll be good. Goodbye.
Stunning. Like a young Burt Reynolds.